let's just crack on.
Well, it was a bit nesh this morning in the workshop, but I really wanted to get one of these builds actually done. So this is a laser cut blank that I've had for about 6 months. I've just been naturally kind of letting this patina. I've had a few that I've painted and wanting to get something done. So these were some LED lighting strips that we got. It's January, so everybody's kind of having clearances and things. So I think these were bought from the range, ex-Christmas stock or whatever. And I think these are about £10 to £15. You can buy it on Amazon, and I'll leave a link to the description. This project's quite nice because I'm using some of those MDF scraps that I've got laying around, and it's just going to be done out of 18mm plywood. And I'm just starting off with making a quick and rough sketch of what I need to do. So the square itself is a 300 by 300mm by 2mm piece of steel, and I think my rough measurements, I'm going to be cutting these out with a 45-degree mitre at 318mm I've got, and I think I just did them ever so slightly over so I can have a rebate that will be able to come into the centre and just give me just enough room onto there. So I start off by just making sure I've got the right blade height, and I'll be changing the angle across over to do 45-degree cuts. So I'm using one of these Trend digital level boxes, and so far so good. Very quick and easy to do, and can drive you a bit mad though.
Bollocks.
All the hard work on this project was done just on the table saw, and it turned out really easily just by cutting these 45 degrees. What I did find is doing the secondary cut, I had to go back and just do a little bit of fine tuning because I didn't kind of take into consideration the blade thickness, so you have to move the fence over ever so slightly. But as you can see, we've got both sides done nicely. So some people will kind of rip a whole length down and then set up a chop saw, whereas I thought this would be a lot easier just by doing a long piece, both double miters on one board, and then rip these down to length for each side of the box frame. So I'm now getting ready to do the rip cuts down the length of the board, and these are going to be 50mm wide. And just to start off, I'm going to do a cleaning cut by just cleaning up the sides of the board that I have here, and this is just going to allow me to start with a nice and clean finish on either side. It's going to be painted, so I did have some burn marks, I think because this is the blade that came in the machine. It's very cheap and cheerful, but it's done a job so far, and I don't really want to use one of my nice new blades for just ripping down some MDF. And I've got just a little bit left over, and worked out quite nicely. And I'm just going to double check that I've got enough to kind of rip down, and I worked out everything okay. So now I'm going to start ready for my rebate. So this is just a bit of 2mm plate that I've got, and the blades are typically about 3.2mm. There's going to be a gap, but it's fine. This is just going to be as you would a picture frame. You can always pack it out a little bit if you need to. And to do this, to do your rebates on your table saw, you're going to need to take out the knife at the back and just put back in your insert plate. Now ideally you would be using a zero clearance, but I think because this is MDF, it's not really going to matter. I'm just using what I've got here, and yes, I know the blades are going to have the diamond cut shape at the top. Doesn't really matter. I haven't got a flat nose cut blade yet. I'm just using what came with the table saw, so I didn't really want to be using my fancy stuff again, because it's just some MDF little scrap challenge that I'm doing.
What colour should it be?
You know me, I love green.
I think the face is either got to be rusty.
And green for the wood.
Yeah.
Or navy.
But it is going to be lighting up all different colours. That's what the Christmas light things are for.
Well, then do you go black?
Yeah, see, you know, once you go black, you know, you never go back.
I know. I
Well, that's what you told me anyway, so.
Every day, darling.
So what colour? Do you think black all round?
I do.
Yeah, it's not in your face then, because I don't want it like bright orange and then, you know, you just look like a bloody yobbo.
It'll be timeless.
Timeless, what a word. Like my humour, darling. Yeah, alright, bugger it, I'll do that. I'll do that. And do you think I should like chamfer it? Or should it just be square?
You get all posh now, aren't you?
Well, yeah. Yeah, you know, you're on YouTube and you're competing with people that actually know what they're doing. No, I think black. I think black. It's your decision, you're the boss, and no one can argue with it.
Done.
Done.
Well, you can't argue with that. So some of the parts that I had a bit of a burn mark from the table saw blade, and I'm just going around each one, flattening them off with a flat block, and this is just 180 grit Merkur Abranet, and then ready up for some paint. So I'm using these Hamlet short pile rollers and just some Wilco black matte black paint. And weirdly, I've used quite a lot of paint now for wood stuff, and this Wilco stuff works amazingly well. Always very happy to have some assistance, so thanks very much, love. We're just going to be rolling these on. I find it gets the best finish, and if you do mess it up a little bit, it's easy to kind of fade back in. It's just a lot easier. Spray painting, MDF, I've just kind of never got on with it. And I quite like the worn but lacquered look, so I'm just going to be flattening everything off and putting into a microscopic keying onto these. And I like that just raised edge polished look. You'll see it a bit later on. And this is just 180 grit DA pad. So if you are wanting to do something similar, you can just call your local laser cut job shop, and if you want the same effect, then you'll have to get hot rolled. Cold rolled, you're not going to have that mill scale on there, so you can't kind of blemish in that taking off the mill scale leveling that you've got. So, and to kind of protect everything, I'm just using this plaster coat. I find that this is pretty good, but though, to be honest, with lacquer, I don't really find buying more expensive aerosol cans makes much of a difference, so I just had this stuff knocking around. So we've gone for 3 coats on each, 3 coats on the black MDF parts and 3 coats on the high coat lacquer, and this is just leaving probably half an hour. It dries. I've got the fan heater blowing in its rough area, and not really going too nuts with blocking it and flattening it and all that jazz. It's lacquer. It's pretty good stuff, fairly straightforward, nice and easy. Next job, I need to put in a 5/8 15mm hole into one of the bottom pieces here just for the cable, and I'm still getting used to this Bosch pillar drill thing. It's a bit weird. And these Forstner bits I've bought from Turner's Retreats, and they're not very good. I'll be honest, I don't think Forstner bits are great for MDF, turns out. It's my first set. Had no idea. Who knew? So that just gives me that clearance for the cable that's going through, and I now can start lining everything up and measuring everything across. So it comes with these little silicone, I want to call them like P-clips, the little tie downs, and I'm just using an awl to then line up the holes on either side and then start my way around. So I'm probably only going to be using about 1 meter of this, and I wasn't quite sure how to cut this down to length, but I was just working my way down the length of each part and using masking tape to make like a hinge joint to then mark up and mask up. This was very stressful. I've never worked with this stuff before. I know many people have, but yeah, it was a killer.
Oh, does that work? Oh, please. Oh, shit. Is that on? Come on. Ah. Ah.
So I started and I glued 2 L shapes. I left those overnight. I came back the next morning and I'm just doing the final glue up now of both of the L shapes, and I'm going to be trimming down the last little bit of the LED strip, and I'm putting in the front and the back plate into the rebates and then closing up the clamshell, but making sure that I can trim off that last little piece there, make sure that it's nice and even. So it's the next day now, and I just made sure that nothing had kind of fallen or moved or shifted, and another chilly morning, and I don't know what it is. I bought some new masking tape and it's just left this horrendous mark and peeled off some of the paint. I had some better quality 25mm stuff, and this stuff has just kind of ripped the paint off. It wasn't frog tape, so yeah, it's this duck brand stuff. Not really a fan, but at least I know for next time. So it was a bit of a nightmare, but I just got some paraffin and managed to just rub off that top layer of it, and I just went over it and cleaned it up a little bit, and it seemed to work out okay. I was a bit dubious about maybe just leaving the glue and MDF, so I thought I'd better put some pins in it. So I just went round with the small little airstrike nail gun and just put some more 40mm pins on either side. I just feel it makes it a little bit stronger. Plus I like using it, and yeah. I then covered them up with some paint. Again, I left some in the tray and I just used the same roller from yesterday. It was still wet and I could cover that up. Just dating it, and next off I wanted to put some hooks on it and make sure I can hang it up, and I looked at the little cheap ring things that you can get, the picture frames, and they just looked a bit pants. So I thought I had a little bit of time whilst the paint was drying off, I would just get out the bit of map gas and forge a little scarf hook thing, and it worked out okay. I really want to do more and play a bit more, and I just wanted something that didn't look like a 25p Wilko coat hanger fixer up kit. So I just formed this out of just some 6mm rebar. I put on the Anchor logo and I made it look a bit like a floating scarf. Finished all that up and just drilled some holes into it. Did a bit of countersinking, and I don't have any flat-headed screws. I've only got these Phillips head, the small ones that we've got. So I just heated those back up, and I took off that top coating, and whilst it was still really hot I just rubbed some beeswax in there just to A, protect it, and B, to give it that glass kind of finish protective look, which I quite like, and then buff it all off, and it kind of gives you that nice protected matte blacksmith look, if you like. So it's a good cheat, and it makes a really strong hook. And I then took it over to the side, measured it out from the center, used an awl, and I got pretty lucky, and I managed to get it pretty much in the middle, but just making sure when I was screwing this in I didn't go too tight, and it was in the middle. It worked out well. I tested it with a screwdriver and I managed to get that balance pretty good. So next off I just need to find somewhere to put it up in the workshop, and I went for the easiest option and I put it in one corner of the room where there was a plug socket next to it. And I'm really pleased with it. Always something in the way.
And that's going to be the end of the video, gents. That is in a temporary place because I don't know where to put it yet. And it's just hanging up by a little bit of skating board. But apart from that, I'm very pleased with it. It looks grand, and it was quite a straightforward, easy project. It's just paint and glue, takes forever to dry in these cold times. Thank you very much for your ongoing watching support, your thumbing me and comments. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.